and welcome back to Cuckoo for Books. My name is Salva and today I'm going to be sharing with you 10 things that spark joy for me. So my very good friend JM over at Just Read JM created this tag to spread a little bit of positivity during these times. I specifically wanted to mention 10 non-bookish things that spark joy for me because this is a pretty bookish channel. You already know that books spark joy for me, so I personally wanted to give it a little twist. We've all been cooped up for the most part indoors. I know everyone says we should go out or open a window and get sunlight, and I've been very bad, so I thought I would force myself to get sunlight by filming this video outdoors. Before I count down the 10 things that spark joy, I also wanted to mention that I am temporarily out of a job because I do work in an industry where mass gatherings are essential, and so obviously that's on hold for now. I am aware of what an insane privilege it is to be out of a job and not really have to worry. Like now, the biggest worry I would have is not to be able to pursue my passion, and that is not supposed to be a worry during these times. I am lucky, I'm grateful, I'm home with my parents, and I just wanted to mention that. This is just a fun video I wanted to make and to support my friend JM in his tag video. So the first thing that has sparked joy recently for me are podcasts. I am a huge fan of podcasts. 2 podcasts in particular I have been obsessed with and have been listening to, and the first podcast I wanted to talk about and mention was Let's Talk About Myths, Baby. It's a one-woman show. It's hosted by this woman named Liv, and ooh, who's calling? I don't know if you heard that phone call. There it is. But yeah, it's a very cut and dry, straightforward podcast. It's a truck. What she does is tells the story of Greek myths. She talks about it very casually, which is what I really love about the podcast. She tells it in such a way that sort of the information sticks to your brain long after you've finished hearing the story. And the second podcast I wanted to talk about that I discovered recently was Noble Blood. The production value is amazing. It's also narrated by one woman, Dana Schwartz, I believe is her name, and there's something so soothing about her voice that I'm just like, yes, tell me anything. Tell me your life story, Dana. I will listen to you reading your grocery list. So Noble Blood as a podcast is, you know, about royalty, but what I love about it is it also takes in the lesser known royals and weird periods of a famous royal's life. Their first episode was about Marie Antoinette, but instead of dwelling on her time at Versailles, her opulence, her extravagance, the podcast instead was dedicated to her final days when she was imprisoned and right before she was guillotined. It's a very fascinating podcast, and I would suggest if you're a fan of history and Greek mythology to check out those 2 podcasts. The second thing that has sparked joy for me recently, and this has been a lifelong love of mine, possibly over 15 years I'm realizing, and that is Sims, particularly The Sims 2. My friends know this. It's dangerous for me to start playing The Sims. I will spend all day every day at the computer and forget about the outside world. I want you to know that I waited. I was like, no, I need to do something productive during this lockdown period. I cannot go back to The Sims, even though technically it's the best time for me to be chained to my computer. But I was like, no, I need to get things done. I need to read. I need to fix my room. I held out for maybe 3 or 4 weeks, and then I was like, no, I'm playing Sims. And that's been what's filling my days. The third thing, this is 6. The third thing that sparks joy for me nowadays are online theater things. I can't speak for the theater industry around the world, but here in the Philippines especially, I am so blown away by the number of people and the number of initiatives that have happened to hold theater things online. Plays have been streamed, musicals, classes have now shifted to being online workshops. I personally still continue voice lessons via Zoom. The other week I joined an improv workshop that was conducted via Zoom. I have a group of friends. They decided to hold staged readings, so they give us characters and we learn our lines and then we read them in a Zoom conference. Innovative things that people have come up with to adjust to life indoors. It's absolutely amazing, and the days when I'm like, I get to do a workshop today, I get to have lessons today, are some of my favorite days that I've been spending lately. The fourth thing that sparks joy for me nowadays are 2 specific TV shows, namely Alias and Hulu's The Great. Alias is my favorite show in the world despite never having finished it. That's because I heard that it has a kind of anticlimactic ending, but I've watched it so many times, so I decided to rewatch it now because I'm just at home. For those of you who were born after 2001, because it's almost 20 years old, Alias is a show about a spy who believes she's working for the CIA, and then within the first episode she finds out that the agency she thinks she works for, the agency that says they're the CIA, are actually criminals. And so she turns to the real CIA and she's like, I want to be a double agent and we're gonna take this bad conglomerate down. I don't want to say who it was created by because he is a controversial figure, but it was created by J.J. Abrams, so you either hate him or love him. But Alias in itself is a really good show. It holds up pretty well despite being made 20 years ago. I mean, just rewatching it now, I was like, dang, the fight choreography, the special effects, pretty good. The second show I wanted to talk about was The Great, and it is Hulu's new miniseries starring Elle Fanning and Nicholas Hoult, and it's about Catherine the Great. I love historical TV shows, and it's really noisy. I knew I was gonna like this show, but I thought it'd just be like, okay, I'll watch 10 episodes and I'll say I've watched it. From the first episode, the production value, the costumes, the music, the tone of the show, I was like, I am in love. This is probably my favorite royal historical TV show yet. Nicholas Hoult is amazing, and Elle Fanning I've always loved, but she takes things to a whole different level on this show, and it's really entertaining and I really enjoy it. Stepping away from sort of media and pop culture for a bit, also I'm really glad a breeze just came through and I was like, ah. The fifth thing that sparks joy for me, something I never thought I would come to love, would be working out. What? I'm like, why do I like this? I've never been a fitness buff or even a fan of fitness or even sports. There have been so many times in my life when I'm like, oh yeah, I'm into exercising, I like biking, and then I'll do it for maybe like 1 month, 2 months. Now I look forward to going to lift weights and doing cardio. What? I've been doing it every other day now. Like the book self of me who wants to be like curled up on the couch reading, it's like, you traitor. Number 6 on my Sparks Joy list would be my Bookstagram account. If you've been following me on there, you'll notice that I've sort of revived it a little bit and put a little life back into it by posting semi-regularly. I guess it's just a way for me to express creativity during these times, and I'm having fun doing it, finding things around the house that I can use, and it challenges me creatively, and I like that. Another thing that sparks joy for me nowadays are Facebook groups, and I know normally social media is like a really toxic place that I don't want to get into that, but there's just been one group in particular that I've just been loving lately. So for those of you who don't watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine, there's a character, Boyle, who has a lot of cousins, and all these Boyle cousins just love each other. They're just almost nerdy with love. Like they're not ashamed to say I love you to everyone, and they're just so kind. But somebody made a Facebook group where we all pretend to be Boyle cousins. Everyone on the group is just like, hey, here's my puppy, I love you guys. A place where everyone is guaranteed to be nice and is there for a good reason. It's a really nice space on the interweb, and it's a really cute group, and I'm having a lot of fun on it. The 8th thing that sparks joy for me recently, and this is something I've never really talked about on this channel. I'm not here to be like a Bible thumping, like preachy converting person, but the first thing I do when I get up, because I don't want to check my phone because I think that just sets the wrong tone for the day if you like wake up and the first thing you do is scroll and scroll, you know. One thing I found that really like puts my soul at ease is to pray the rosary in the morning. I've never done that in my whole entire life, but I find that doing it first thing in the morning sort of gives me peace, inner peace. It's sort of my version of meditation, I guess. Something I didn't think would spark joy during these times, but it does. The second to the last thing that sparks joy for me nowadays is baking. I wish I could say it was my baking. It's not. Like, I've been having a sort of new me phase right now with working out. My mother has suddenly turned into Ina Garten and begun baking like all the time. Sometimes we'll be in the middle of a conversation. There'll be a lull when neither of us are talking, and then she goes, well, I'm gonna go downstairs to bake. Whenever I look for her now, she's in the kitchen, which throughout my childhood she has never ever done before in her whole entire life. She's made like ube crinkles and peanut butter cookies and bread, and she suddenly turned into Pita from the Hunger Games and chocolate chip cookies. I wish I could say it was baking that sparks joy for me. Actually, it's eating the baked goods that make me happy. The last thing, and I hate to end this with such a cheesy Boyle-like comment, but it is true, and the last thing that has been sparking joy for me nowadays are like friends and family. I don't know if I'm projecting or anything, but I feel like when I start conversations online, I've noticed a lot more people wanting to engage in deeper conversations. Even with family members, not a lot of my cousins are here in Manila actually, a lot of them are abroad or in the province, just having more in-depth conversations rather than like, hey, see you at Christmas, asking how they are and really hearing how they are over the past week. It's made me really happy and made me feel really good. So yeah, that's the last thing. I'm sorry for cynics out there who think that was a cheesy note to end on, but it was the truth. And those were the 10 things that sparked joy for me. You can follow me in my other bookish adventures on Twitter and Instagram. I'm both at cuckooforbooks. If you're a book blogger or even anything really and you want to talk about what sparks joy for you, feel free to do this. List down the 10 things that make you happy. Please subscribe and I will see you guys very soon. Bye guys!